He'd lost his wife years ago and vowed never to love again. But when his daughter decided her father had been lonely long enough, she never imagined the woman she chose would change all their lives forever. This is A Bride for My Billionaire Father, a story of healing, unexpected love, and the courage to open your heart when it's easier to keep it closed. The morning sunlight streamed through the tall glass windows of the Reynolds estate, gliding across marble floors and quiet photographs frozen in time. 15 years had passed, yet Ethan Reynolds still kept his late wife's portrait in the front hallway, her smile the first thing he saw every morning. The house was immaculate, but heavy with silence, not the peaceful kind, but the kind that reminded you of what's missing. Sophie Reynolds stood in the doorway, a coffee mug cupped in her hands, watching her father at the breakfast table. He looked exactly as he always did, crisp shirt, neatly combed hair streaked with silver, those calm gray eyes fixed on the morning paper as though the world outside didn't exist. He looked composed, at ease even. But Sophie knew better. She'd grown up reading that stillness. It wasn't peace. It was loneliness, dressed up as discipline. "Morning, Dad," she said softly, taking the seat across from him. He looked up, a faint smile curving his lips. "Morning, sweetheart. How's my soon-to-be bride doing?" Sophie laughed lightly. "Trying not to lose my mind. Mom would have loved the chaos, though." At that, his smile faltered just a fraction. He folded the paper and set it aside. "She would have been proud of you. I know I am." The warmth in his voice melted her heart, but beneath it lay the same ache she'd been trying to mend for years. Her father hadn't dated anyone since her mother's passing. He told everyone he didn't have time. But Sophie knew the truth. He'd simply decided love died the day her mother did. "Dad," she began carefully, "do you ever think about, maybe meeting someone new?" Ethan chuckled and shook his head. "Sweetheart, I'm too old for that. Besides, I had my once-in-a-lifetime love. You're all I need." She smiled, though the words stung. She was his daughter, not his companion. And soon she'd have her own life, a husband, a home, a new beginning. The thought of leaving him in that echoing house made her chest tighten. Later that afternoon, she met her best friend Lena Brooks for coffee at a cozy cafe downtown. Lena, with her warm brown eyes and sharp sense of humor, listened as Sophie vented about her father's stubborn heart. "He still says he's fine being alone," Sophie muttered, stirring her latte too hard. "He won't even consider dating." Lena tilted her head. "So what's the plan? Gonna put him on some exclusive billionaire dating app?" Sophie sighed. "Please. He'd delete it before the photo was uploaded." Lena grinned. "Then find him someone yourself." Sophie froze mid-stir. "You're joking. I mean." But Sophie's eyes lit up with sudden inspiration. "Lena, your mom. Evelyn. She's single, right?" Lena blinked. "Yeah, but Sophie, no. Absolutely not." "Why not?" "She's incredible. Smart, kind, grounded. Dad would like her. I just know it." Lena groaned, laughing. "You're actually serious?" "Just an introduction," Sophie said quickly. "Casual. Harmless." "Fine," Lena sighed. "But if my mom finds out we plotted this, you're taking all the blame." "Deal." A week later, the Reynolds mansion came alive with music and laughter for Sophie's 25th birthday. Ethan, in a tailored charcoal suit, moved through the crowd with polite charm, shaking hands, making small talk but keeping his usual emotional distance. When Lena and Evelyn arrived, Sophie's heart thumped with quiet excitement. Evelyn Brooks was elegance wrapped in Grace's soft curls framing her face, eyes warm but reserved, her presence calm yet commanding. "Dad," Sophie said brightly, "this is Lena's mom, Evelyn." Ethan turned, and for the first time in years, something in his expression softened. "Pleasure to meet you, Ms. Brooks," he said, extending his hand. "The pleasure's mine," Evelyn replied with a small smile. "Sophie's told us so much about you." As the evening unfolded, Sophie watched them from across the room. Polite conversation flowed easily, laughter, curiosity, stories shared like small gifts. When Ethan smiled at one of Evelyn's dry jokes, Sophie felt a flicker of triumph. Later that night, as the guests filtered out, she caught her father glancing toward the doorway where Evelyn had stood. Subtle, but telling. "She's nice," Sophie said casually. Ethan nodded, pretending indifference. "Yes. Very kind woman. And funny," Sophie added. He smiled faintly. "She reminds me of someone." Sophie hid her grin. The seed was planted. A few days later, Sophie called Lena. "Round 2. "Oh no," Lena groaned. "What are you up to now?" "Dinner. At my place. I'll say I want to cook for myself, but I'll need help from your mom." "You're unbelievable." "Unbelievably strategic," Sophie teased. That Friday evening, the plan unfolded perfectly. Evelyn arrived in a cream blouse and jeans, hair tied back, her laughter filling the kitchen as she chopped vegetables beside Sophie. "You sure your chef won't be offended?" she joked. "Not tonight," Sophie said. "Tonight's about family." By the time Ethan returned home, the scent of garlic and thyme drifted through the air. He stopped in the doorway, eyebrows raised. "What's this?" "Dinner," Sophie said proudly. "Home-cooked. No staff." Ethan smiled, intrigued. "Impressive." Dinner was lively, the food rich and comforting: roasted chicken, fresh salad, and a warm apple crumble that made Ethan close his eyes after the first bite. "This is incredible," he said. "Who cooked?" "Evelyn helped," Sophie said quickly. Ethan turned to her. "You have a gift, Ms. Brooks." She smiled softly. "Cooking's just my language for love." When Sophie and Lena stepped out to grab dessert plates, the kitchen fell quiet. "So," Evelyn said gently, "Sophie tells me you built your company from scratch." "I did," Ethan said, relaxing into the conversation. "After my wife passed, work was the only thing that kept me standing." Evelyn's eyes softened. "I understand. I raised Lena alone after her father left. Work became my lifeline." Their eyes met, a quiet acknowledgement between two people who had endured more than they ever said aloud. "You must be proud," Ethan said. "She saved me," Evelyn replied. "I thought I was teaching her how to live, but she taught me instead." They talked for hours, their laughter threading through the stillness until the world beyond that dining room disappeared. In the following days, Ethan found himself thinking about her, her laugh, her warmth, her strength. He caught himself smiling at memories that shouldn't have mattered so much. Finally, unable to ignore it, he called. "Would you join me for dinner?" No pretext this time. Evelyn hesitated but agreed. That night, the house felt different, softer somehow. No staff, no guests, just candles and the sound of rain against the windows. As they ate, conversation flowed naturally. They spoke about love, loss, and how both can remake a person in ways you don't expect. At one point, she said quietly, "You remind me that grief doesn't have to mean the end of joy." "And you remind me," he replied, "that healing doesn't have to mean forgetting." Weeks passed. Sophie's wedding drew near, and the mansion buzzed with activity. Yet through it all, Ethan carried Evelyn in his thoughts like a quiet song. When the wedding day arrived, sunlight pouring over the gardens, music floating through the warm Dallas air, he walked Sophie down the aisle, his heart full and aching all at once. "You look just like your mother," he whispered. She smiled through tears. "And I learned love from you." Later, during the reception, his eyes caught a familiar figure by the roses. Evelyn. She looked luminous in a champagne-colored dress, her smile unsure but warm. He crossed the garden toward her. "You came," he said softly. I wouldn't have missed it, she replied. They talked quietly, the laughter and music around them fading into the background. You look beautiful tonight, he said. She shook her head. Don't say that. Why not? Because it's safer if we don't start this. He smiled gently. Safe doesn't mean happiness. Her eyes shimmered. You don't know what it's like to lose someone and be afraid to start again. Yes, I do, he said. And I also know what it's like to regret not trying. The song changed, a slow melody drifting across the garden. He held out his hand. Dance with me. She hesitated, then placed her hand in his. They moved together under the soft string lights, silent but connected, two hearts rediscovering the rhythm they thought they'd forgotten. When the music faded, he whispered, Stay. Not tonight for good. Her breath caught. Then she nodded. Yes. 1 year later, the Reynolds home echoed with laughter again. Morning light spilled across the kitchen as Ethan attempted to flip pancakes under Evelyn's amused gaze. You're supposed to fold the batter, not beat it into submission, she teased. I'm adapting, he said, grinning. At the table, Sophie and Lena watched them, laughing quietly. Sophie smiled. You know, I think this might be my greatest success story. Matchmaking your parents? Lena asked. Exactly. Evelyn shook her head affectionately. You two are impossible. Ethan slipped an arm around her waist. Don't blame them. They just gave me back something I thought I'd lost forever. She looked at him tenderly. And what's that? Hope, he said simply. Outside, the morning breeze carried the scent of blooming jasmine. Inside, the house once silent felt alive again. It wasn't a love built on fairy tales or grand gestures. It was a love born out of courage, the quiet kind that begins when two broken hearts decide to heal together. And for Ethan Reynolds and Evelyn Brooks, that was more than enough. Months after their quiet wedding, the Reynolds estate no longer felt like a monument to the past. The halls that once echoed with solitude now carried the soft hum of life, the aroma of coffee at dawn, laughter at breakfast, the occasional sound of Evelyn's favorite jazz records playing from the study. Ethan found himself waking earlier these days, not to drown in work, but to watch her. Evelyn moved through the kitchen like sunlight, unhurried, warm, and sure of herself. She had a gift for turning ordinary mornings into something alive. Don't you have a meeting at 9? She called from across the counter, slicing strawberries for breakfast. I do, he said, setting down his mug, but watching you feels more productive. She smiled without looking up. Flattery won't get you out of your schedule, Mr. Reynolds. Who says I'm trying to get out of it? Because that's your third cup of coffee and not a single email has been sent. He laughed quietly, shaking his head. You know me too well already. That's my job now, she said softly, meeting his eyes. And just like that, the heaviness that had lingered in him for years eased a little more. Yet love, even rediscovered, came with its own shadows. Ethan's board of directors at Reynolds Holdings hadn't expected their usually reserved CEO to remarry, and certainly not so soon. The whispers began almost immediately, she's after his money. She'll change the company. He's lost focus. He ignored them, at first. But when Evelyn attended a charity gala by his side, radiant in midnight blue satin, greeting guests with quiet grace, he caught a few pointed stares. Later that night, as the car wound through the city lights, she asked gently, You heard them, didn't you? He hesitated. I did. But it doesn't matter. It does, she said quietly. I never wanted to be a source of scandal for you. He turned toward her, his voice steady. You're not a scandal. You're the only thing in my life that feels real. She smiled faintly. Still, people will talk. Let them, he said. We've both lived long enough to know what's worth listening to. But the truth was, he did care, not for himself, but for her. He knew how cruel public perception could be, and the thought of her being misunderstood gnawed at him. A few weeks later, Sophie returned from her honeymoon, her eyes lighting up as she walked through the front doors. "Mom's redecorating already," she teased, glancing at the new framed art and soft linen curtains. Evelyn laughed. "Your father's been very patient." "I trust her judgment," Ethan said easily, his arm around Evelyn's waist. Sophie grinned. "You two look disgustingly happy." "Jealous?" Evelyn teased. "Maybe a little," Sophie admitted, before turning more serious. "I'm really glad you found each other." Later, as the sun set, Sophie joined her father in the garden, the same one he'd once tended alone. "She's good for you," Sophie said quietly. "I can see it." Ethan looked out over the roses Evelyn had planted, soft pink blooms where once there'd been only thorny stems. "She reminds me that I'm still allowed to live," he said. "I didn't realize how much I'd stopped doing that." Sophie leaned her head on his shoulder. "You deserve this, Dad. Both of you do." Life, however, wasn't done testing them. One rainy evening, Evelyn received a call that sent her voice trembling. Lena had been in a car accident. The news hit like a storm. Within minutes, she and Ethan were rushing through wet streets to the hospital. Lena's injuries, thankfully, weren't life-threatening, but Evelyn's composure cracked in those first few hours. Ethan stayed by her side, holding her hand through the long night, fetching coffee, speaking softly when she couldn't find her voice. Around dawn, as the rain finally stopped, she whispered, "You shouldn't have to go through this with me." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Evelyn, you stood beside me through years of grief I could barely name. This is where I want to be." Her eyes shimmered. "I didn't think I'd ever meet someone who understood what love costs." "Maybe love's not about cost," he said. "Maybe it's about courage." Lena recovered fully, and the experience only deepened the bond between the two families. By summer, Sunday lunches at the estate had become a tradition of laughter spilling out from the terrace, Evelyn's cooking drawing everyone together. Sometimes, Ethan would pause mid-conversation just to take it all in, the clink of glasses, the low hum of joy, the feeling that his house was finally a home again. One afternoon, as Sophie and Lena teased him about his questionable barbecue skills, Evelyn came up behind him, resting a hand on his shoulder. "This," she said softly, "is what I've always wanted." He turned to her. "What's that?" "Peace," she said. "And someone to share it with." He smiled. "Then we'll hold on to it." Months later, on the anniversary of their wedding, Ethan planned something quietly beautiful. He led her to the same garden where they'd shared their first dance, now glowing under strings of lanterns. The air smelled of jasmine and warm earth. "Ethan," she said softly, her voice catching. "You did all this?" "I wanted to give you something that lasts," he said, handing her a small box. Inside lay a delicate gold bracelet, engraved with a simple phrase, "For the second chance I never thought I'd have." Her eyes filled with tears. "You've already given me that." He took her hand. "Then let me remind you every day." They danced again beneath the same lights, their laughter carried away by the wind. But perhaps the most beautiful change was the one Ethan didn't see coming. One quiet morning, as he sipped coffee on the veranda, Evelyn joined him, holding a letter. "What's that?" he asked. She hesitated, smiling. "An offer. The tourism board invited me to help lead a national cultural initiative promoting heritage preservation across Spain." His eyes widened. "Evelyn, that's extraordinary. I wasn't sure if I should accept," she admitted. "It means travel, long hours." "Then I'll come with you," he said without hesitation. "We've both built empires and endured loss. Now let's build something that matters, together." She laughed softly. "You sure you're ready for adventure again?" He reached for her hand. "With you? Always." The following year found them wandering through the narrow streets of Seville, tasting olives in tiny markets, watching flamenco dancers in dimly lit taverns. In Madrid, they strolled through Retiro Park at dusk, the city glowing gold around them. Everywhere they went, they carried with them the quiet lesson life had finally taught them: love doesn't fade with age, it deepens. One evening, as they watched the sunset over the Alhambra, Evelyn leaned her head against his shoulder. "Do you ever think about how different our lives might have been if we'd met sooner?" she asked. Ethan smiled. "I used to. But then I realized if we'd met before, I wouldn't have been ready to love you the way you deserve." She looked at him for a long moment, her eyes tender. "So maybe timing isn't about chance." "No," he said. "It's about grace." They sat there in silence, watching the last of the sunlight fade, their hands intertwined. Two lives, once marked by loss, now rewritten by love, not the kind that begins in youth, but the kind that stays when everything else has fallen away. And for Ethan and Evelyn Reynolds, that was the truest kind of forever. After years of carefully curated order, Ethan found joy in losing direction. It started with a train ride from Madrid to Granada, 4 hours of golden countryside rolling past, olive groves stretching to the horizon. Evelyn sat by the window, a silk scarf tied loosely around her neck, her hair lifted by the breeze from the slightly open window. "You look like you belong here," he said, watching her smile as the landscape shifted from plains to rugged hills. "Maybe I do," she answered, not looking away from the view. "Spain has this way of making you feel like you've been here before even if you haven't." She was right. There was something about Spain that didn't just invite you in, it absorbed you, reshaping your rhythm, softening your sense of time. When they arrived in Granada, the city greeted them with the scent of orange blossoms and the distant hum of flamenco. Their hotel, Parador de Granada, sat within the Alhambra's ancient walls, a place that felt suspended between centuries. From their terrace, they could see the Sierra Nevada peaks dusted with snow. That night, they wandered through the Albayzin, the old Moorish quarter, where narrow cobblestone streets twisted past whitewashed homes and hidden courtyards. Lanterns glowed above wooden doors, and from somewhere behind them came the faint echo of a guitar. "I used to think romance was something you outgrow," Evelyn murmured. "Now I think it just changes shape." Ethan took her hand. "Maybe it waits for when you're finally brave enough to recognize it." From Granada, they flew south to Malaga, the birthplace of Picasso. The city carried a Mediterranean ease that made time irrelevant. Mornings meant sea air and soft light spilling across the marina, afternoons were for wandering through the Museo Picasso, standing in quiet awe before canvases that seemed to pulse with life. They dined at El Pimpi, a traditional bodega where the walls were lined with autographed wine barrels. Evelyn ordered bacquarans en vinagre, anchovies marinated in vinegar and olive oil, while Ethan opted for rabo de toro, a slow-cooked oxtail stew. "This," she said, closing her eyes after the first bite, "is the kind of meal that teaches patience." He laughed. "You're starting to sound like a food critic." "Maybe I'm just learning to taste again," she replied. Later that night, they walked along the promenade, the sea whispering against the sand. The city lights shimmered on the water, and for the first time in years,